Hello and welcome to the Gaia update for December 2015. I'm Adrienne Elise. Well, the energy we've been really feeling in November and into December is Saturn square Neptune. This is a powerful square. It goes on for quite a while because they're big, slow-moving planets. Now, Saturn has been enjoying moving into this new territory in Sagittarius, coming out of the shadow work of Scorpio into the work of the spiritual seeking. It's about piercing the veil. Saturn, it's a very different placement. It wants us to really strive to expand our horizons, to understand, to learn, to grow, to teach on a spiritual level, with that in being in Sagittarius. Now, we have the sun in Sagittarius as well. And for the new moon on the 11th of December, the sun and the moon come together in Sagittarius and will have just passed over Saturn. And so a real triggering of this Saturn square Neptune. And so the Saturn square Neptune square energies are about the shift, the tension before a shift, because the square represents a 90-degree turn, a complete shift in our life. And indeed, the levels of ascension in our spiritual consciousness have been associated with the steps of a pyramid. So each step is a 90-degree turn, and that gets us to the next dimensional frequency. And we're literally going through this in our life on a daily basis through all these micro levels of consciousness shifting. And so this month and next month and pretty much into the spring equinox are really about coming to this place of the corner, which is like, okay, the way I've been doing things, the way it's been going in the world, has worked somewhat up to this point. And now we're at the end of the road. And this is huge, means huge changes and disclosure on a global scale about our financial system and the extraterrestrial involvement in our race and our true history. All is going to be coming out to the surface. Now, Saturn square Neptune is really bringing this energy forward, as well as Uranus, having been retrograde since July, turning direct this month. And so Uranus is this energy in Aries. About Uranus is lightning fast change, revolution. It's also about innovation and technology and intuition, and it's very rebellious energy. And so this energy of rebellion has been been held back through this retrograde. And so Uranus and Pluto had come out of their final 7th square that happened in March of this month, but now are coming very close together. They are 2 degrees apart now, and at the end of December, they will go to being 1 degree apart. So it's not an exact conjunction, but pretty much close enough. So we're going back into the fire of this powerful square between Pluto and Uranus. Now, that is in cardinal signs, and cardinal signs are about starting the new. And so even though we've completed the actual 7 squares that went over 3 to 4 years, this Pluto-Uranus square, it's the 2012 astrology, really powerful. Pluto, the planet of the destroyer, of dissolution, the breakdown in our sign of structures, Capricorn. We've got Uranus, the revolutionary change, coming into the sign of the self, our identity. Who are we? The child, the truth inside. And so we are literally being asked to break down all structures that do not support the truth of who we are. And in order to do that, we need to figure out who the heck we are. And humanity, we've been told huge lies about who we are and our history and the technology that's available to us. And so this cannot go on any longer. And that's an exciting thing for a lot of people, but also it can feel unsettling. And then what does this mean in our individual life? Because the square is coming back of a Pluto-Uranus square. Now, that's the cardinal square we talked about, which is instigating new. And so even though we've gone through those 7 squares, only the last one in March of 2015 was when both planets were direct. And so we had the very final square, both planets direct. And interestingly enough, this next almost square, this kind of revisiting the flames of the fire, like, oh, do we really have to make these changes, or can we squeak by without them? And now we're coming to that corner. And so these planets are both direct. Now, when this next square happens. We're going to be really feeling that. That's the major energy around the solstice this year on the 21st, the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere is really going to be about shooting forward. But Uranus wants to go forward. The rebellion wants to be expressed. All of this technology, this intuition, these solutions that have been suppressed from us, they want to fly out. They want to be out in the world. But Uranus moves right into a square with Pluto, and they're both in direct motion, so they're both ready to move forward. And so it's kind of like the final corral before we set free into the new phase of humanity, of what we're doing. And that is what 2016 is about. 2015, major year shifting. Actually, we've just been shifting continually, haven't we? And it just keeps getting more and more intense. And I remember astrologers talking about, well, things came, kind of this feeling like, well, we're going to go through this intense time and then we'll get back to normal. It's like there's no normal. And this is a big part of Uranus and Aries. We're changing the definition of who we are. And that really has to do with who we are as spiritual beings, that we are an expression of cosmic source. We are not who we are in this body. That's not the truth of who we are. This body, this identity, this persona, all the things we call ourselves in this lifetime are just a fleeting thing, just like a cloud passing by in the weather. And so who are we really? And so the Saturn in Sagittarius is saying the work of humanity right now is about pushing that veil, going out beyond the limits of what we know. And so it's really powerful, Saturn squaring up with Neptune, and it's kind of been an uncomfortable place because Saturn is in Sagittarius, and Saturn is more of a limiting planet. It's more about let's be real, let's be practical, and Sagittarius is not at all that. And then we've got Neptune at home in Pisces, and really expanding into, or really the energy of the collective consciousness, our dreams, our visions, the reality of what's true, delusions. And so Saturn is really kind of calling us to do this work about the reality of who we really are so that we can start to build a new life, a new world, a new identity around the truth of who we are. And so we have to reveal the lies. And so Saturn square Neptune is about waking up, especially with Neptune just went direct last month. And so we were really feeling that for the month of November, coming out of delusions, moving out of what we thought was real, what we thought was true. And you know what? This whole world we live in is just a story. And someday we're going to wake up from this bad dream and realize that we've gone through all of this so that we can create the good dream. And that is the essence of what we are being called to do right now. Light workers on the planet is be the light. Hold this space of the golden age of the future. Be in the consciousness of that already exists. And that is how we support this transition, because it is going to be pretty huge for the delusions that we've lived with to fall away. And humanity has some big shifting ahead. And so those of us that have already come into the truth of who we really are, seeing ourselves as one. This has been the journey over the last few years. And so we're here to just hold that consciousness as the rest of humanity step by step goes through these massive changes that are coming in the next couple of years. And so it's just kind of like the train's coming into the station, and it's time to get on board. And this is this final Pluto-Uranus square that's going to be pretty much going on until the spring equinox. Spring equinox 2016 is when these planets separate for good. Now, that's interesting because just a month after that, in June, 2 months after that, is when Venus reappears as an evening star. Venus has been a morning star this year since its retrograde in June. And so it's been a whole year of transiting this retrograde and then going under the horizon, being a morning star. And so it's like Venus, our goddess, has gone to the underworld. And indeed, we're feeling that this month because Venus is in Scorpio all month long. And so the goddess is is kind of like, we've already done this deep work on the shadow, but the goddess part of ourselves, the female part of ourselves, is kind of going into these hidden places. It's going into these secrets within ourselves. The goddess is taking a trip to the underworld to see the truth of what's going on and to clean it up. Okay, so we've got the North Node in Virgo, and we've also got Jupiter in Virgo. Really powerful energy for this whole next year. And so this is, the North Node is where we're heading, our future karma, and how to get there. And so how to move forward in this age is around the Virgo energies of discrimination and cleaning up and purity and perfection. And so what does that have to do with all of this? It's about part of the redefinition of the goddess, is that she's not the goddess within all of us. The divine feminine in all of us is not the dirty horse she was made out to be. And so we are cleaning all of the stories of shame on all levels that are on the planet, so we can come back to a place of purity, knowing that we are an expression of the divine and that we can live that truth. We don't have to live anymore the prison of this existence. We don't have to live the illusion of poverty. All of this is a lie. All of this despair and squeezing and feeding on us. Literally, energy has been feeding on us as a culture through our emotions. And so it's time for us to take that back and reclaim it. Now, the only way to do that is to see this big perspective. For Saturn in Sagittarius, take that arrow, hard-working Saturn, the taskmaster, going at the veil with that arrow and being, I need to pierce this veil. I need to know the truth. So the way that we are supporting the process right now as light workers or light keepers on the planet is to embody the light as much as possible in our thoughts, word, deeds, and action, to hold that space of the potential of the future rather than the pain of the past. As much as we're clearing and letting go and moving through all of our stuff, just being committed to that vision and also being committed to the truth. Saturn in Sagittarius wants us to know what's beyond the veil, and it is time for humanity to know. It's time to start talking about it. It's time to start sharing those controversial things that you felt like nobody would ever get. It's time for humanity to wake up to the truth of who they are. And this is, like I said, so much that Uranus in Aries. Now, Uranus turning direct on the solstice, really powerful energy, because like I said, we're coming out of that. It's this energy of rebellion, of all this technology, of this intuition. We want to move into the new age, but then right smack dab into that square. Again, Pluto and Uranus, because Pluto is saying, okay, yeah, we want to move forward into this new age, but these structures that we're living in are not supporting us. So on an individual level, as for us that are awakening and having these activations in our light body, our physical body has to go through a lot of changes to support those changes. And then what does that mean on a global scale of the structures not supporting the truth of who we are? Basically being enslaved by a banking cartel. That is not really supporting the truth of who we are, humanity as a free will universe, and so it, and compassionate love of loving cosmic beings. All of what we've been told about who we are through the religious model, which is a lot of that Pisces. The Neptune in Pisces is, representing this past, the delusions of the past, and where we were told we had this authoritarian God that was going to punish us, and that we did something horribly wrong, and we need to be redeemed. And so this is a story that's just been kind of like playing out as a way to keep us in control and keep us under control. And we are evolving beyond this, and it's going to change, and it's really exciting. So be the light, hold the space for the future, and find out the truth. Like, let this Saturn in Sagittarius, the karma, be finding out the truth for yourself, for who you really are, and humanity, who we are, and what's really going on, so we can clean up these pockets of shadow and that aren't aren't resonating anymore, and find these lies and be able to come out. So this is a lot of the energy of the next 3 months, is about coming to the truth about the lies and then figuring out how we break down and change these structures. And then we're going to see after spring equinox of 2016 the changes start to happen, because that's when Pluto and Uranus actually separate out. They don't come back into what a lot of degrees astrologers use between a 3-degree or 6-degree orb that would say there's a conjunction. And so within the 1 or 2 degrees, definitely we are in an actual square between these planets. And but then they will move out of that for good, and then we get to see what this is really going to be about. How do we build this new world? Because the way we're doing things right now isn't going to fly once we know the truth about free energy and how we've been manipulated and lied to as a culture from the very beginning. So powerful days on the 11th with the new moon. This is when Mars is going to be triggering the Pluto-Uranus square. This is the powerful thing about this year, this month, is that first Mars triggers these planets, Pluto and Uranus, by it's in Libra, so it's opposing Uranus and squaring Pluto. And then later in the month, around the solstice, these are our power days, the 21st and the 11th, that is when Mercury is in Capricorn, and it's going to be coming up with Pluto, and so triggering the square as well from a very different angle. Mars, our fighter planet, war planet, coming up in opposition, and then Mercury, the need to know and understand planet, coming up with Pluto. And there's some energy here around, okay, we can figure this out. We can figure this out. And so Mercury coming up with Pluto is kind of being like, okay, how do we dissolve these structures? How do we break this down in a harmonious way? Now, this is really supported by Mars is having a conjunction with Pallas Athene also in with Pluto there in Capricorn. And this is happening right around in the week around the new moon. And Pallas Athene is the warrior goddess, but she is very much adept at the art of diplomacy. And then with Mars in Libra, the sign of diplomacy, we're really having a lot of energy around, yes, we have to fight this war, we have to move and pierce the veil and see the truth and break down and build up, but how do we do it with diplomacy? How do we do it without creating more negative karma? How do we do it without bombing the shit out of our neighbor? That is no longer acceptable. In this world, it's no longer acceptable for humanity. We are changing so fast right now that we are feeling, getting to a point where we're starting to feel what everyone in the collective feels. And so these lies and being misled and the manipulations have got to stop, because we cannot handle it in our psyche anymore. And so it's a powerful time, but it's also a frustrating time. And these are these squares. We've got the mutable square, Saturn square Neptune, and then we've got Pluto square Uranus and the cardinal signs. So the mutable signs are like confused frustration, and then the cardinal square is like frustrated frustration, as far as like cardinals want to start, want to move. It's like once we feel like we're on this new path, we're going to feel better, you know, we're going to know what we're doing, but we've been in this lost, hazy confusion because there's all the shit that needs cleared up, and we don't even know what it is, but we feel it. We feel it inside our being. And so now it's time, and it's going to feel so much better as all this comes to light and we start to come more at peace with the truth of who we are, that there aren't atrocities happening in our name all over the galaxy. And so basically these squares are talking about that tension, the point of tension before the shift occurs. And so just remember that if you keep getting put into a corner because your issues are coming up around what's true for you, and and all of these issues in your own individual life, that you're going to get back in that corner again and again until you make the shift, until you realize, oh, I got to turn directions. And so that's the place we're at, and that is so freeing. But it can also feel kind of like free fall, like letting go of everything you know and who you thought you were. But that's exactly what we're being called to do, because the trauma that's involved in our association with our personality, our past lives, the pain we've experienced, is what's keeping us creating this false paradigm. And so that Uranus in Aries, it's time to remake who we are. And Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, the Aquarian age. We are cosmic beings. We have access to higher consciousness. We have technology available to us way beyond what's been shared with us so far. And so we have an exciting period of time coming, and the message is to sit tight, hold the light, and honor yourself as this cosmic being, this expression of the true God, which is the oneness consciousness that we all come from and will all go back to, and is within us all the time. And so seeing that bigger perspective, holding the energy of the golden age that's there waiting for us behind the veil of these delusions, when we feel safe enough to come out from our addiction to be playing small. Find the information you need to empower yourself out of despair, to empower yourself into solutions, and use the square energy to support your shift as a gift rather than something that's just in your way and a frustration. That's the big shift I see in this last Pluto-Uranus dance, is that we've already gone through the squares, we've gone through the tension, now we're revisiting it, and it's like a fire under our butt. It's like, yes, it's really time to start the new. We were playing around at it, we were trying lots of new things, but now it's really time to take that leap of faith, and that appears to be coming around spring equinox 2016. So that's a great time to start a new career or a new shift in a new direction in your life on any level. So the beautiful thing that wraps the whole month of December and 2015 together is this really neat Juno conjunction. Juno is a planet of deep soul commitments. This is like soul family commitment. It's different than marriage, that can also often be karmic and kind of, you know, those relationships that are really powerful but then break away. This is deeper soul commitment. This is soul team, people that we've been waiting to find our whole lifetime. And we've had these three conjunctions between Venus and Mars. And so Venus and Mars coming together, first at the beginning of the month, Venus comes together with Juno, and then Mars comes together with Juno later in the month. And so the male and female archetypes, and the peace between the god and goddess, the peace between the duality consciousness, the right brain, the left brain, that finding that middle ground, the way, the path, that is of balance and honoring the divine masculine and the divine feminine without having to battle. The battle of the sexes is over, and the marking of the end of the battle of the sexes is this soul team commitments, these energies of deep soulmates, that it could be just a day that you have an experience, or it could be a deep project that you're wanting to work on. But these people coming into our lives are bringing strong messages, reflecting back to us the truth of who we are and helping to find that new cosmic identity. So that is an exciting time. And so I hope you have a wonderful December, and looking forward to 2016 as the transformations and the path of remembering who we really are continues. So blessings on your journey. Namaste.